color today.
We are live. You got some color for sure, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wait till some people join here, and then we'll fill them in on what we've done so far on the teardown. What do you think, Jordan? Should I go glasses on or glasses off? What do you guys think here?
Glasses on. Oh, it's like serious Jeff look.
Okay. All right. Well, people are starting to trickle in, it looks like. So we will fill you guys in on what we've done so far. So you're joining us sort of briefly in progress here.
Turn my phone off. Sorry.
We just did an interview with Christopher Bell out on pit road after he got done with his media obligations. So we will work that in on the audio version. And he was great.
It was wonderful.
Had an enjoyable conversation with him for a few minutes. And he guessed, we want our guests, if possible, to guess on the Good Race Poll. So I had to put Jordan on the spot. Christopher guessed also. So to fill you in, Jordan is, he guessed 90.
90.
So, and we'll when we start with restart the actual version of the podcast here, we will explain our reasoning there. So I'll save that. And then Christopher was very surprised to hear that it was a 90 race. Like he was like, what? Like it was that good. And we explained that we thought it was, and he thought he was a little bit more, he was like, really? So he guessed 82. And then after last week, I feel like I gave one away. I boxed Jordan in with a 90.1 because it's crunch time now, and I do not want to wear something flashier than this to the Daytona 500 if I lose the bet.
This is Dad Miami, by the way. If
Dad
you are
Miami.
a dad and you're going to Miami, this is what you wear. That's not
This was
necessarily
also
a good thing.
This was also purchased from Target, by the way.
Of course it was. You didn't have to say that. Everybody just knew. It's assumed.
Okay.
It's assumed.
So that is the setup, and now we're going to resume the podcast version, picking up where we left off. So that's for you YouTube friends. And does that make sense? Did we miss anything else that Bell said? Or
No, let's roll into it. By the way, do you know who picked Bell to win the championship this year?
Oh, I forgot about that. You had him in your final four.
I had him in my final four. He was my champion. Now I've changed my picks like 15 times. I will acknowledge that.
Well, don't ruin it yet because we're
all right.
Okay. All right. We're resuming the audio version where we picked up where we left off. All right, Jordan, we are now back inside from pit road. We were outside and it was a little bit noisy. So we just figured, you know what, let's come in a more sterile environment. Is that what they call it? For our audio recording. And you just heard our guest is there with our guest, Christopher Bell. So let's explain why we guessed what we did. So you went 90%. Surprised, Christopher. Why did you go 90% on this race?
I think at the end of the day, those last 40 laps or so, that's what people are going to remember. They're going to remember Larson running into the tire barriers or the sand barriers. They're going to remember Hamlin having his problem, Truex having his problem, the playoff being thrown into a blender. And then great racing between William Byron, between Ryan Blaney, between Christopher Bell. And what that is, and this is, Homestead is representative of what NASCAR is at its best on intermediate tracks. And that's what it was over those last 40 laps or so. Then I think if you remember the beginning of the race, and I honestly don't think many people will, because I think the end is going to get all of the attention. Those first 30 laps were really terrific. Like once that green flag dropped, you had the top 6 or 7 cars kind of running in a pack, jockeying everything. Yeah, stage 2 wasn't the best, but at the end of the day, no one's going to remember it.
So I think it was beyond even the 40 laps, like you said. I mean, to me, the first stage was great. Like you had different leaders, you had lead changes on track. You had a little bit of strategy with Hamlin staying out longer. Oh, how's this going to work? So even when you had Larson get the lead at the end of stage 1 and start to drive away a little bit, it was like, oh, well, how's Hamlin's strategy going to work out? And so it still gave you something to watch. I watched stages 1 and 2 up in the press box, and I think as good as it feels like TV does a good job, once I got back down and you're showing the race, but it's like nothing compared to what you see up there because you were looking all over the track and there's they are fanned out in 3 different lanes, and they're all trying different things because this track gives you that option.
Yeah.
And you can see that some cars are getting slower, and you're like, oh, that guy's losing pace. Like Larson, he didn't manage his pace at the end of stage 2, and he had a huge lead and he coughed it up. And Blaney,
well, traffic didn't help either.
Yeah, but like he ended up getting passed for second also.
Mm-hmm.
So guys were, they were you could do anything you want, really. I mean, essentially, and I just think, man, that's so good. It's so compelling. Yes, when Larson was stinking up the show for a little bit, and you're like, well, it's going to be a Larson runaway. That's not as compelling. But the bottom line is that's not. I mean, that's not the track. That's one car is hit on something, and a driver who's really good at running the wall. I just think this is the kind of race that it gives you everything you want. And then on top of it, as if, you're not going to have just, we talk all year about all these wild card races, the wild card, this is the wild card. This is the craziest race of the playoffs so far, essentially, because this is supposed to be sort of the straight up race. And, how can you keep your head spinning after all this? Like, I still haven't.
It's a lot to process.
We haven't had a chance to really digest this.
No, this is going to be a live therapy session as we can break this down and figure this out. I mean, it was a lot to do because up until, I don't know what lap Larson hit the sand barrier, but up until then, I would say this playoff has been very straightforward. I won't say it's dull or boring, but it was just kind of like.
People have been saying it doesn't have juice.
It doesn't have juice. That's the best way to describe it. It doesn't have juice. And at that moment, though, it literally flipped because all of a sudden it had juice. I mean, Larson's issues today really, in the grand scheme of things, didn't have any impact because he's going to lock in. But if he wins today and he was in contention to do that, he's going to make they're going to make everyone else's life tougher at Martinsville. So that does have an impact there. And then you throw Hamlin, and then you throw Truex. And those are two of the 4 championship favorites, with Larson and Byron, the other 2. Now, those 2 of the 4 championship contenders are on the wrong side of the cut line. And more than likely, let's presume that Byron gets in because he's got 30 to the good. One of those guys is going home, maybe both of them. And that today is the big story.
So I actually tried tweeting this. It did not go through. When I was walking back from the press conference, from the media center, or the press box upstairs down, I took this picture. I'll show the YouTube feed. And it was the 12, 5, 11, 24. They were running 1, 2, 3, 4. This is right before Larson hit the sand. By the time I walked upstairs to tweet this, Larson had just gone into the sand barrels. And I was going to tweet, I think this could be this looks like your championship 4 right here, running 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
12, 5, 11, 24. Then, like you said, things suddenly change because, look, let's talk about the Larson thing and just start there. He obviously, looking back on it, he even said after he watched the replay that NBC showed him during his interview, he's like, well, it looks like I was going a lot faster there than I intended. But he thought, okay, I'm going to try to maximize everything I can here because whoever wins this race off pit road, Larson had concluded Blaney has a good enough car. They've done a good enough job today that if he beats me off pit road right here and he gets out in clean air again, I'm not going to win. So my chance is right here to get as close as I possibly can. Hope my team has a great pit stop, which they have all year, and then gets me out front. He obviously overcooked it in a significant way. I mean, there's, I think TV showed the 2 speeds, and Blaney was right about it. Pit road speed, essentially a little bit less, but Larson was way fast coming in, and I'm not so sure that he wouldn't have gotten a speeding penalty anyway at that moment. But he's trying to catch up and make as much ground as he could. He said he had his control of his car the whole time, but it just obviously that.
Did he have control when he hit the barrier?
Well, he was trying to. I think to me, he's like, I don't want to run into the back of Blaney and ruin Blaney's day. So my alternative is to go this way, and he did hit Blaney a little bit, and you could tell it.
He was remorseful. I mean, he felt genuinely bad.
He felt really bad for Blaney. He said, I hope he wins, all this stuff.
He didn't want, because Blaney's got a great run. And Blaney, can we talk about Blaney for a second too? Like, what a great, this team all year long, intermediate tracks, Ford, Penske, not good. Yeah, they won at Charlotte, blah, blah, blah. They were great today. They qualified well. They practiced well. They were running in the top 5. And he If this thing stays green, his car was so good on long green flag runs, he probably wins this race. And it didn't work out that way. But he went from being on the wrong side of the cut line to now plus 10, going to one of his best tracks. Like, it was a masterful day for this 12 team today.
You just kept, with the Ford situation this year, with Penske not running that well, you sort of just kept waiting for Blaney to drop off, like kind of like Buescher did, honestly.
Yeah.
Like have a bad run, take themselves out. And the fact that he was in contention today, I mean,
on a stage.
I mean, really just a great car, great performance. I mean, Dale Jr., maybe his championship pick could be right after all. He won't waver off it. And again, if Blaney makes it to Phoenix, the way we've talked about it, the way Penske's run there, the way Blaney's run there.
Yeah, it's been second in the last 2 Phoenix races there. Could have probably won there last fall.
You could make a very good argument that he could do really well. Now, I think you can make a good argument for Larson obviously being in there. Byron, at Phoenix, I mean, those guys in the spring. So you feel pretty confident that Byron's going to make it. And then whoever joins, whether it's, I don't know if Blaney's going to get it or if Hamlin can pop back in there or Truex. I don't feel too good about Truex at this point. Or even Reddick, who's ahead of both of them. Yeah. I mean, Reddick's the one that's only 10 back, and the other Hamlin and Truex are 17 back. Not saying they can't point their way back in, but they have a tougher task. But whoever is joining them at Phoenix, I mean, it's going to be there's going to be something there. Like I think it's going to be a pretty competitive race. But Blaney is certainly, if he makes it, he's going to be somebody that you definitely have to consider.
He's legit. I mean, he's going to have to get through Martinsville. And the good news for him is Martinsville is one of his best tracks. He's never won there before, but he's won stages there. He's led a lot of laps. He's usually really competitive there. He has to feel fairly confident that he can go there, run top 10, and run point. But that said, Hamlin and Truex are both very, very good there. They're multi-time winners there. Either of those guys winning next Sunday would surprise nobody at all. The thing that jumped out to me as well as you kind of run through this was we talked all year about the 5 team, right? They've got speed in the race car, this, and this. And what has been the bugaboo about that team this year?
Mistakes. Overdriving,
trying to do too much. And what happened today? Another potential win, at least a top 3 finish goes by the wayside. And again, doesn't matter in the grand scheme for them. That's fine. But why? Why does this keep happening? That's the question. And especially in a race like this where you don't need to do that. And this race was kind of playing out in your favor and you were going to be in the mix. Like, there was no need for that at that moment.
Look, I think it's a good thing when you see Larson make mistakes. Here's why. If Larson, we think Larson.
Plus Daniels would disagree, but okay.
No, not for them. It's not a good thing for them. It's a good thing for everybody else. Because if Larson gets to the point where we all think like he may be the most talented driver of his generation, right? But he has a tendency to make mistakes. If he's so talented and he never makes mistakes and he just throttles everyone and it becomes boring after a while, like let's say he just wins and wins and wins and wins. It gets to this point where it's just like, oh my gosh, like this guy, it's a Max thing with F1. Like, oh, it's just like, especially here at Homestead, you're like, man, oh well, it's a great track, but blah, blah, blah. But the fact that he makes mistakes, first of all, it tells you how hard it is. It shows everybody, these guys are right up to the line. This is extremely difficult sport. And even the best to do it oversteps that sometimes. But second of all, it mixes it up. Because what are we sitting here talking about? If Larson dominates stage 2 and then basically passes Blaney, leads all of stage 3, wins by 15 seconds or whatever, we're like, oh, Larson, he reaffirming himself as maybe the championship favorite at this point. And we're like, well, what else is there to really talk about from this race? That mistake changed a lot of stuff that opened a lot of doors to crazy things happening today. And now we have some stuff to talk about. It didn't affect his season, as you mentioned.
I agree with you. Like from the journalist's perspective and from the
well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
it's better to have the juicy storylines and have all this unfold. But if Larson is this generational talent and is supposed to be the next Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, is going to be this great NASCAR driver. Well, Jimmy and Jeff they made mistakes. Everybody's going to make those, right? But they didn't repeatedly make mistakes and take themselves out of races. They didn't do that. So if Larson is going to ascend to the mantle that we think he's capable of doing, at some point you've got to be able to push that aside and stop doing that. And when is that going to happen? His rookie year was 2014, so this is 10 years now. At some point, like, you've got to be able to say, like, yeah, there's times I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to push too hard. But when you do it repeatedly, like he's doing, like that's where it gets like, if he's supposed to be this all-time great, you got to stop that.
Well, again, I think if this was a race he needed to win and he threw away his championship 4 spot by hitting the sand barrels, you're like, oh, that's.
But we've seen that Texas, like, he threw away a race he needed to win or could have, win.
Well, that was air that sucked him around.
Well, I mean, yeah. But it's not.
But he's in the Final Four, so
no, I mean, that's the thing. Like, in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter. But this is a pattern now, and so that you look at the bigger picture. This is something that just keeps happening.
Well, it happened to him at the Roval last year that took himself out of the playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, but look, I mean, again, to me, it keeps things interesting.
Sure. That's better for us.
So then after that whole business, right? Like, you're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen now. Like, is Blaney going to win this race? I mean, because the way that the caution came out, Truex was trapped a lap down. I'd take the wave around, a couple others. So some people were able to make their pit stops. And you're like, okay, well, maybe it's going to be Blaney, maybe Denny. Eventually there's a restart where Denny takes the bottom, Blaney takes the top. And they raced the absolute crap out of each other. Both of them.
They did, yeah.
They raced the absolute crap out of each other and get passed by 2 cars, Byron and Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so, I think Denny was trying to take Blaney's air. Blaney was obviously getting very frustrated and upset.
It looked like Blaney was almost getting squeezed. Like, Denny was almost trying to, I wouldn't say trying, but like, he was kind of moving up the track, and it looked like Blaney was going to get squeezed in the wall. There's a few times there it looked like.
Well, I mean, I think that's sort of the arrow game that all those guys are trying to play on the late restart. They're trying, Denny, we see it all the time. You try to take people's air away, take their,
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Obviously, Blaney did not like that, but after they both get past, they're racing for 3rd and 4th. I think there was like 32 laps to go. Suddenly, it looked like, I thought it was a tire going down or something that put Denny in the wall. Something broke, I guess. And then after the race, I went and talked to Chris Gabehart. He said he's a theory on what might be broken, but he's not ready to say it publicly. He also said, like, the toe wasn't bent. So it wasn't, something where, like, he didn't think it was something from Denny slamming the wall. And that was what broke whatever happened, whether it's something in the steering, whatever. He think it could have been from rubbing the wall, but he said that would be very weird because they haven't really seen that in this car, because you rub a lot with this car and you rub with different tracks, Darlington and stuff like that. And it's helped. They've seen it hold up just fine. So he's not really sure why that would happen, but essentially, he's like, look, I mean, this is racing, right? Like, when there's all the, your mechanical parts on your car and everybody else's car, that's why it's not so straightforward at times. And it seemed like their year all year long. He was my championship pick throughout the whole playoffs. I haven't seen anything to think otherwise. And suddenly, just like that, you go into the final race of this round. He's down 17 points, just like that. So where does this leave Denny at this point?
17 points is not insurmountable. You can go there. He's very capable of winning both of those stages, and it's 20 points right there. And then depending upon what Blaney does and Reddick, you could theoretically vault in. I don't think he could conceivably point his way in still. Like, it's not a must-win situation, but you need stage points. And the fact that you're going to Martinsville, that inspires confidence that you can go there and do that. But this is tough because, go back to my earlier point, you've got the regular season champion, and you've got the guy who was neck and neck with him for most of the regular season as well. And for most of the playoffs, that 11 team seemed like it had gone into a different level, and they were really clicking. And even when they were having some issues, they were overcoming now. And this was the first time really they couldn't overcome it. And unfortunately for them, they've got a 17-point deficit. But I don't think it's it's not dire by any means. This isn't like a Chris Buescher situation where you're buried in points and your only chance is to win. And by the way, and you're going to a racetrack you struggle at, like everything is setting up for them to do something special at Martinsville. And it's not inconceivable that they could.
We're doing this live on YouTube right now for those listening. And Jarrett the Iceberg, the YouTuber, is on our channel in the comments. And he says, to be fair, Blaney was 17 points out entering today.
Yeah.
And now he's 10 up.
Yeah.
So
you got a lot of help. That's Blaney getting help. Like Blaney got a lot of help in that, no doubt. But I don't even think Hamlin doesn't even need a lot of help. Like he can go there, win both stages. And if Blaney finishes 10th in both stages, that's the deficit right there. And the other thing we talked about Tyler Reddick a little bit, I feel like we're overlooking him a little bit, but I feel like he kind of shot his shot. Like he had an opportunity at Vegas and here, and that was where he was going to have to make his mark. Now he can go there and win next week. We saw last year with Bell. It just seems like that's going to be a tall task for that team. So I really feel like it's Truex, Hamlin, Blaney, those three for one spot.
Yeah, and I talked to Reddick after the race today, and he was just sort of like down about, he just felt like they were hoping for something better today, yeah. And he said on restarts he absolutely got killed, and that's what really hurt him, especially late there. He just said he didn't know what it was, if it was the car, if it was him, but something wasn't going right, and the restarts really hurt them, and they're in a tough spot now. Going to Martinsville against, like you said, 3 drivers who have done very well there. It's going to be very difficult. But last year Bell went there and won the race.
Nobody thought Bell was going to win that race.
Yeah. To me, if I'm the 11, yes, it's 17 points, and you laid out a case for why, you could point your way back in. And I'm not saying you wouldn't try to do that if the opportunity was there, but don't you almost have to go there and be like, let's just go win and
don't have to worry about anything else.
I mean, let's just go on kill and absolutely go for it. And if somehow people have trouble and the points shake out okay, then fine. We will try to do what we can. But I don't want a points race at Martinsville. If I'm Denny, I don't want a points race knowing what happened at the end on the last lap last year.
2 years ago, remember? Him and Bowman.
Well, sure. But I was thinking more like the Hail Mary.
No, yeah, I mean that too. I'm just saying, like, traditionally, like he's 2 years in a row, he's been in position to have, success, and it's been taken away by things outside of his doing.
So, and honestly, I mean, Truex at this point too. I mean, yes, I know he's tied with Denny and it's the same situation, and yes, you say to them today, okay, it was a blown engine that took them out, but they qualified on the pole today. This should be a really good track for them. Mm-hmm. And they just sort of slowly kept going backwards, even before their engine deal. Like, wasn't he toward the back half of the top 10?
Yeah, he was in the back half top 10. Pit stops killed him. Like, it wasn't a Truex thing. This wasn't a car thing per se. I mean, the car wasn't, I don't think it was a winning car, but it was a top 5 car. And they just got killed in pit road repeatedly, where Truex was frustration level just kept going up and up. And
you tweeted a quote from him.
Yeah.
That was like, I am not doing this anymore or something. And that was on the pit stop right before he got trapped a lap down with the Denny caution.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They were just slow. I mean, they just had bad pit stops after bad pit stop, and it was killing them.
Or no, not the Denny caution, the Larson caution. Because he, at the same time as the Denny caution, that was when he blew up. But yeah.
And so it was frustrating because this was, were they going to win today? Probably not. But they were getting stage points, and they were having a clean, uneventful race, which I don't think they've had so far in the playoffs. Like,
It's still, like, I remember going into stage 3, he was below the cut line.
Yeah.
So, like, they still weren't doing enough.
But that was because Blaney had won the stage, though, and taken 10 points. And so, like, there was other things going on. They weren't, like, exceptional by any means, but they were having a more normal-esque day than running 17th and their cars having broken parts underneath it.
Okay.
I mean, so.
But still, I guess what I'm saying is, I wasn't looking at them going, oh, yeah, that's.
Oh, no, they were. It wasn't a retro, like, oh, okay.
There's the regular season champ. They're back.
It wasn't like the feeling you had on Saturday after you won the pole when you're like, okay, this is the team. The champ is back here, right? The champ is here. It wasn't that. So we'll see. I mean, maybe he comes back at Martinsville. Maybe they find their mojo again. But that team is.
I mean, but here's what I'm saying, though. If you're the 19, and again, I know that I just said one
On the
strategy
19, I'm
for the
going over a
11.
drink because that he's just. I mean,
But you're not going there going, let's point our way back in, right?
No, you got to go for the win at this point. Like,
Just because the way their playoffs have gone, I don't see how anything could go right enough for them
no,
to where you're like, oh yeah, we just pointed our way into the Final Four after being down 17 points and we beat our teammate and we beat
it's
Ryan
been
Blaney
so
and
crazy
Reddick.
and so bad. Like they're due for a break, and now it's going to spin for them.
I guess that's possible, but
They
it doesn't
walked
seem to fit the narrative very well.
I mean, they walked underneath a ladder in front of a black cat, and stepped on a broken mirror. I mean, it's been that kind of playoff for them.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Truex. I mean, he didn't talk to media. I mean, he's blew off the media, and that's whatever. He's frustrated. Like he is, and you don't blame him. I mean, you had this great regular season. It feels like you're peaking, and then it's just gone to hell in a handbasket. Some of it's out of your control, but a lot of it's been in their control as well.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Well, let's talk about somebody that had a bad day also, by the way, Chris Buescher.
Oof.
Yikes. He had a great tweet or X post, whatever, where he took a screenshot of his post from this morning. It was like, today's going to be a great day. And then he deleted it and screenshotted this tweet has been deleted.
Okay.
And he posted that screenshot and that was all.
That's clever.
That's
very clever.
Yeah, they were just completely out to lunch. I mean,
which is weird about that though, because as bad as they were,
Brad was good.
His teammate, was top 3 today,
and they usually run the same.
They're usually pretty.
So through the summer, you'd be like they'd be right next to each other.
Yeah, and so it was like, how could he be so bad and the 6 be so good? It was.
Well, last week too, we're like, man, wish they could switch spots with Keselowski because he's running well. I mean, it's weird how it's flip flopped, but
it is. I mean, I did that thing for the Athletic, going in the round 3 and talked to people in the garage, and a lot of people said it. Like this team just felt like it peaked too soon. Now you can't really control when you hit on something, but whatever mojo they were riding in July and August when they won 3 races, it's slowly subsided and it's gone completely now. And now they're going to a racetrack where, I mean, Bell taught us last year, don't run anybody off, but it just feels like they're done.
Well, I mean, he did win in a short track.
Sure, he won at Bristol, but he
won Richmond.
He won Richmond too. It just feels like it's gonna be a tall task.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Bell thing last year. I'm hesitant to be like, nah, I don't really see this because I wouldn't have seen that coming.
No,
so
but I'm playing the odds here.
Yeah, right.
Can I just mention too?
Mm-hmm.
I picked Christopher Bell as my champion.
You did say that, yes. So speaking of Bell, and we talked about it with him briefly, but and I think this is a fair narrative, by the way, but he appears to be a clutch performer, right? Because he wins 2 elimination races last year to get himself into the Final Four. He hadn't won on a pavement track all year this year because he just won the dirt race. And now, of all times to do it, he gets it done in an absolutely crucial moment with Blaney chasing him down. Yes, his argument is if you have a good car, you run good. If you have a bad car, you don't run bad. And he said, you could see that in the same race, right? But still, as you point out to him, to execute in those moments, yeah, you can have the car, but to execute, I think what he's sort of overlooking is you could put me in that situation. I would crumble.
Oh yeah, I've seen you trying to handle pressure before. It's not good.
That was a little bit more than I set myself up for.
You get snarky.
What I really think about is like, and if anybody listened to my 12 questions last week with Daniel Suarez, I mentioned this to him too. It's like, if I play mini golf with my friends, I could be pretty much kicking ass, right? Mm-hmm. Like for most of it. And if they're close in the final few holes or whatever, I will fold. So I don't have you
don't have the clutch gene.
I don't have I don't have the mentality to do what it takes to not let the pressure get to me, to not let the nerves, to keep doing what I'm doing, to block that out.
You're weak mentally.
Sure. In sports.
I think,
but that is something that is extremely hard to do, and you're performing at the top level when all the pressure is on you. And look, I've seen this guy do this in the Chili Bowl, and people go, oh, well, Chili Bowl, whatever. The Chili Bowl, he's from Oklahoma. It means the world to him. He's had Larson chasing him down at the Chili Bowl, and he executes flawlessly. And it's no different than what we've seen on a road course in that situation last year at Martinsville. It would be, yes, he has a good car, but it would also be very easy to crumble.
And that's the key point. And I'm kidding about being weak mentally. You handle pressure great. And so to me, he's right. You do. You're fine. You do get snarky. Anyway, you look at those 3 tracks though, right? You look at the Roval, you look at Martinsville, and you look at here. It is really, really easy to make a mistake and do something that ruins your day. Those are quote unquote driver tracks, right? And so yes, you need a great car, and you need to have, you need to be put in that position. But when you're pushing it in the final laps, and you got Ryan Blaney coming hard after you, and he's better on long runs than you, and here it is really, really easy. How many guys have we seen get into the wall, like push too hard and make a mistake on old tires? It is so easy to on flat. Didn't make a mistake, didn't turn a bad wheel, right? Las Vegas, same kind of thing. Unflappable over the closing laps, handled it really well, and gave Larson a run for his money. You go back a year ago, Roval came through. We've seen so many guys overcook it and spin out and go into turn 1 and lose it on the backstretch on the chicane, wherever. No problems, comes through. Martinsville, it's that's as hard as it is. It takes guys a long time to figure that place out. And here's this young kid in his third year last year, and doesn't make a mistake and comes through that says something about him. I'll give all the credit he wants to the car, and he's right. You need a good car, and you need good everything, but he still had to do it.
Pressure changes a lot of things with people, right? You can tell. How many races have we seen over the years where you're the crew chief saying, just put pressure on that guy and see what happens. See if he can make a mistake.
There are guys. Let's be honest. There are guys in this garage we know of, and people talk about if you put pressure on him in a situation, he's more than likely going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
We can run through the examples. There are a lot of guys like that.
So, but I feel like Kenseth, for instance, was always very steady.
Sure.
Right. You could put a ton of pressure on Kenseth and he wouldn't make a mistake. He would just hold a perfect wheel. Right. And now in that same 20 car, with some of the same sponsors at times, you're seeing Bell do similar things, I think. And that is somebody where if you get him, and again, he said he's got to have a very small window to get it right where he wants it. But if you can get him that and get him out front of Phoenix and put the pressure on him late, I feel like I would have the confidence in him that he's going to execute. He's not going to throw it away.
Agree.
So, and I think he's 29 years old. 28. He's 28.
Yep.
He's a little bit older than people think. People think he's so much of a total young guy, like Byron age or something, where he did get his start a little bit later. But even being 28, he's got 15 at least good years left probably. And this guy is just almost just scratching the surface of what he can do and what he can show. Today was his first mile-and-a-half win. Only 6 career wins, right? So, this is a guy that could be really dangerous for a really long time. And it's why Coach Gibbs said, what did he say? We could put a saddle on this guy and ride him for the next 20 years.
That's what she said.
That is a quote from Joe Gibbs from the press conference. But I understand what he's saying. That could be their horse. That can be their horse. Now he's got another great horse in Ty Gibbs, who is
super talented.
Once you get that guy at Bell's level,
that's why it was. I'm not going to say it was easy, but when you're going through last year and you got to figure out the Kyle Busch situation and whether to move on or not, that is why it's a little easier to make that decision, because you've got a Bell who is going to be there for 15 years and is a generational talent of the Larson mold. And you've got Ty Gibbs coming up, who you believe in and has justified that. When you've got those two guys as linchpins, it makes it a little easier. And you also have Hamlin and Truex still there. Makes it a little easier to say, okay, we we can go in that direction. And so I think that is. And can I just give a shout out to Adam Stevens? Like, I think he is so underrated as a crew chief. Like, I know, yes, when you have Kyle Busch as your driver, it makes you look like a genius sometimes. But the fact is, Kyle Busch didn't win a championship until Adam Stevens got there, and they won 2. And until last year, he was the only active crew chief with multiple titles. And then Paul Wolf joined the fold. He is really good at shaping drivers and getting them to focus. And even today, like when Bell gets snipey, like, some crew chiefs go back and forth. They can't help themselves. Stevens just chill, lets it, it's like, we're going to focus here. I'm going to get the car better and, forget everything else. He doesn't hold grudges. He just gets to work. He is such a good crew chief, especially for a young driver like that.
Bell apologized after the race because he says, you would ask him about the interaction on the radio, but, he was probably half a straight away from getting lapped. And, Adam Stevens says, "Hey, bud, we got to do everything we can here to stay on the lead lap or whatever." And he's like, "Okay, I'll start trying now."
Yeah.
That wasn't really like a Kyle Busch type.
No.
thing.
No. And when you deal with Kyle Busch, I think you just kind of.
And also like the thing is, tight. Like that. Come on. Like it's not. I mean, I like Bell's little, snippiness coming through on the radio times, like from the Clash, like this is fun. We're having fun. Like I like, the little insight, the little peeks behind people's real personalities that we get at times, or, in moments of frustration, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't know. I think it's good for memes. It's good for all sorts of stuff.
It's good for us because we're talking about, but it's good that you have a crew chief though, because there are crew chiefs out there and we hear it every week who in those situations, it's almost like they decide to argue with their drivers. And it's like,
you got to have pretty thick skin, I would think.
Yeah. But Adam is good about that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Adam Stevens, the last time I was here was 2019 here at Homestead. And the winning crew chief sitting on the stage that night was also Adam Stevens, as Kyle Busch had won his second championship. I hadn't been back here since. That was the last championship race here at Homestead. So I was really curious about how this was all going to feel and what I was going to think of Homestead again. Man, number one, I absolutely miss this place because I freaking love this track. And honestly, I feel like it's even better position now to be a championship race than it was before. Like, I was worried that I was going to come back and be like, yeah, this just sort of has like the ghosts and the echoes of championships past, and it's going to kind of look like it needs a refresher and stuff. But I think they've, number one, kept the place up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
They put, there's some new paint on it and stuff like that.
They've done a good job of keeping it. Yeah.
I don't know exactly when they did that whole beach thing. Did you see that?
Yeah, I have seen it. I've actually not been down there, but I've seen photos and stuff. Yeah.
I don't remember that from last time. I think that's relatively new.
I thought it was like 19. I thought 19 was the first year they did it or something.
Okay.
Like that. Because Chasm went out there and like almost sank.
You can see it from the press box. And I was kind of surprised there weren't more people out there because I'm like, and we had run into Frank Kelleher, the Daytona International Speedway president, earlier, walking out to the tweet up. And I didn't realize like the beach is part of like a GA ticket, I think.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And like I don't think enough people know that you can go out there and go to the infield and chill before the race or during the race on like a real sand beach that goes up to water in the middle of the infield.
First was 2019, by the way.
That was when the beach opened.
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like now if you had the championship, with even bigger crowd, you get more of a party crowd out there chilling on the beach, having a good time, all that kind of stuff. Like that's good. And, this is a place where you stopped on the way to the tweet up today. They do a really good job with like lots of local cuisine here, local food trucks.
Ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. Like it's true, like South Florida, Miami feel when you're walking around the fan zone, all sorts. I mean, it's not like just like the generic, okay, burgers, hot dogs, pizza, whatever. Like it's all sorts of different stuff.
Like tacos and churros, ice cream.
Yeah.
All sorts of good stuff. Those steaks on a stick.
Right. And like, so, I mean, the place looks good. The track race is phenomenal. The next gen car obviously is even better on mile and a half than it was in 2019. The weather's spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many things that check the box here. And it just makes you keep going. Why is the championship not here? Why is it at Phoenix? I mean, look, Phoenix has had a great facelift and they did a great job with their new fan zone. And yes, the weather's nice there as well. But to me, still, I feel like this should be the championship track. This place is freaking magic. And especially when we're out on the front stretch today before we walked across, and I'm like, there's where Keselowski got drunk. He was over here on this part. And I remember, Tony, after the Tony and Carl thing, Jimmy, they all had their goggles that they brought out for the champagne toast and all that stuff. And you're just like, man, all these great moments here of celebration. And it's like the perfect track. Let's just have this be the thing, like not mess with the good thing. I guess there's maybe some movement at some point to move it to rotate the championship.
Yeah.
That I guess I would be fine with that if this was part of it, but I still feel like what is the argument against just having this as the place every year? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This wasn't broke.
No, someone today at the tweet up made a really great comparison, and I don't remember their name who said it. This is the new Darlington, because remember Darlington for a long time, it was like it was a driver's track. You were really, really careful about getting into the wall, and it rewarded guys who could run the wall in a way. It's not that same way at Darlington anymore. It's kind of evolved where you kind of run out there, not bang off the wall all the time. Here, though, it is an art. It is a skill. It is a noticeable, tangible skill that you could see. Some guys got it, some guys don't. And you have to pick and choose your spots. And this is the perfect driver's track. And so it is like an old school Darlington. And it's everything you want. And then the weather. And then all of those boxes. It's like the
tire wear, the multiple grooves. I mean,
yeah, it really is perfect. I mean, it is perfect. Now, I love it. I love it. Let's be honest, though. Like, Phoenix has done a really good job with attendance and getting people out to the racetrack. And I love, as much as we love this place, as much as the entire garage loves this place, for whatever reason, and I don't know the answer. Like, I think it's because a lot of it's because the market's tough. It was not always easy to sell tickets here. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, championship races didn't sell out always.
And it usually was announced sell out the day of, right? Whereas Phoenix, it's usually days before.
Well, yeah, way before.
Yeah, so that's the point. So as much as we love it, you have to get that love back. And so, I mean, this at the end of the day, it is a dollars and cents sport. I get it. Do I think it's going to come back here? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's going to be part of a rotation, but you have to support it, though. You have to. I didn't get a chance to see the crowd today, so I can't speak to that. Hopefully it was good. But if everybody sits there and talks about how much this is a great track and they love coming here and et cetera, great. Then freaking buy a ticket and come out here and support, because that's how you get the championship back here, and that's how you keep the championship here.
Well, first of all, we had heard that the attendance was supposed to be pretty bad going into the weekend. And then I think that they must have had a great walk up today. And there was even some people that tweet up who had come at the last minute and didn't have tickets yet. And they were going to go by. They made a last minute decision to come. But I mean, when I did a show of hands at the tweet up and said, who is here from like out of state, not within driving distance, it was probably 75, 80%. I mean, it was still that crowd. So I think, to your point, like, this is a very tough local market, right? Like the Miami area, trying to sell NASCAR and then come out of the city, come down here 30, 40 minutes. There's not a ton of people to draw from. And it's just so it's literally in the corner of the country, right? It's not an easy race for a lot of people to drive to. So you have to make a decision to fly to it as a destination race. As a championship, you could say, all right, we're going to go to the championship. It's going to be early November. It'll be great weather. We're going to see a championship. This is, hey, it's a playoff race, and it's, it's nice, but people still they haven't really gotten the true cold weather yet. They're not looking for the true escape yet. You also had a race where
I talked to some Connecticut fans. It was a little chilly up there, and they were glad to be down here.
Understandable. You just also had a race just last week that was also a destination race in Vegas. So, if people are going to say, all right, well, I'm going to spend money on this, this is where I'm going to go. And also Phoenix is sort of a destination race as it is now. So no, it is, because, like I was talking to Kansas Kim. She's a big Brad Keselowski fan. This was her last race of the year. She lives in Kansas, obviously, really near the track.
Thank you. That's why she's called Kansas Kim.
Well,
I appreciate
yes.
that. Thank you.
She came down to this. I think she said she'd never been to Homestead before, and she chose this over Phoenix. So when you're looking at me and saying, well, I don't know if Phoenix really a destination race.
Guys, I just think there's more to do here than Phoenix, but I don't hike. So,
but that's a place that people fly to.
Yeah.
You don't have to hike in Phoenix.
Well, people got to go hiking and stuff. What does it do in Phoenix? Golf?
By the way, quick story, guys.
Oh, God.
So last night after Xfinity race, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy that we're in Florida. We're in South Florida. It's beautiful. I'm thinking about going to this place on South Beach that's sort of like this bar. It's not like a normal South Beach place. It's kind of on the other side, the more residential side. And so I invite Jordan. No, he doesn't want to go. So then I think, all right, well, I don't really want to do something by myself. So Jordan loves college football. Way more than, he seems like watch every game. So I'm like, I wonder if Miami's playing tonight. So I look up and I see, oh, Clemson's playing at Miami. The game's not starting for an hour and a half. And I look up StubHub. Tickets are $6. There's nobody there. And so I message Jordan. I go, hey, let's go to the game. No, says he doesn't want to go. And then he says, I don't really like going to live sporting events. I don't like going to live sporting events.
I don't.
Where are we?
Well, it's my job. I have to.
You go to live sporting events every week. So for somebody that, if you didn't like going to live sporting events, why would you have a job where you go to live sporting events? What do you have against live sporting events?
You can do, it's not mutually exclusive. I don't like live sporting events because of the time commitment. Okay, so if you go to, let's just use NFL or college football as an example. Let's say it's a noon kickoff, which means you probably got to get there like 10:30, right? Get there time you park, get it through everything, get your seat, right? And then, so that's an hour and a half before the game. And then the game itself is a 3.5 hour game. Then you got to get out of there. That's an hour. Okay, that's a huge chunk of the day. And then not to mention, if I'm sitting there at the game, you actually don't really see as much as you would sitting at home. You miss things. So you don't have, unless you have like something, radio or TV in your ear or something like that, you're missing things. Your sight lines are not great. If I got to get up and go to the restroom or I want to get some food, that's never an easy thing. You got to climb over people. By the way, the seats are tight. You got to wait in the lines. You're missing a huge chunk of the action. Okay, that sucks. Also, there's other great games going on at the same time. I'm not able to enjoy those as well. Conversely, if I'm home, I don't have to worry about showing up early, staying late, fighting crowds, paying all of the money for tickets, parking, food, all that stuff. Commercial break. Guess what? I can run to the restroom. Boom. I can grab a snack on my way back. I'm not missing anything. All of the things that are going on, the field, the injuries, the play calls, everything else, I can see it all up close. I'm hearing it all happen. Boom. Oh, by the way, the other great games are going on. I'm also watching those at the same time because I've got a multi-TV setup. So, yeah, I'm not doing sporting events. Now, do I like to occasionally go to a baseball game and hang out? Absolutely. But that's going out with a good friend of mine, hanging out and having beers on a nice summer night, 100% into that. But like a college football game, no, thank you. And then, by the way, for last night, it's two average football teams. That wasn't even the best game last night. There was much better games. I'm not going to drive 35 minutes north to go watch two average football teams when I can watch other good games at the same time. No, thank you. I'm good.
Well, I also invited you to a sports bar where there's many games on TV.
I was tired, man. I was talking like,
and also
you don't chase the night. That's my rule. And I wasn't
chase the night.
You don't chase the night, and I wasn't feeling it last night.
Also, you said you like going to a baseball game with a good friend on a warm summer night and having a beer. It was beautiful weather on a nice summer-ish night, and
I slept terrible the night before. I've been sick earlier in the week, and I was really, really sick. I'm still kind of coming back from that. Like, you know what? I'm cool.
You know what? I'm really glad that all the people we meet at the Tweet Up every week are not, number one, not like you and do like going to live sporting events. Number two, I don't think this applies to NASCAR at all because almost everybody you talk to would say that you get a better view of a NASCAR race when you are
listen, like hockey's another one you could say, like being at a hockey game is the same thing, really. But
you don't have to be zoomed in on the two cars or zoomed in on the camera.
I would agree with that. The only thing let's be frank, sitting on the NASCAR race that I wouldn't like, I don't want to sit in the grandstand for 3 hours and bake.
And bake?
Yeah, bake underneath the sun.
Well, that's why speaking of the crowd today,
I'm going to a NASCAR race, I'm sitting in the suite. That's it. I mean, I'm sitting there in the suite, air conditioning.
Oh my
having-
God.
What?
How spoiled are you?
Well, we think we know the answer to that question.
Oh my gosh.
Extremely spoiled. Why is it? I've got standards, Jeff.
Sitting in a suite, with what money? How are you going to buy a suite?
I can talk my way into anything.
Oh, that I believe. Oh, anyway, sorry we got sidetracked there. But so speaking of the crowd, though, I think a lot of people, like to your point, I saw the stands from my view. They were pretty. I mean, I thought again, I thought it was going to be a big crowd. I thought they were pretty full to start, and then by the end of stage one, end of stage two, you see a lot of people starting to go under the stands for some shade, for the food we talked about. And by the time I went down to cross back under the tunnel and go over, there was tons of people under the stands. I mean, just taking breaks, stuff like that. So it is you have to be hardy. You have to love it to do it. And you obviously don't love the live sporting experience, but
not baking in the sun.
Look at your face. Look at your
Yeah,
face. If you're on YouTube right now, you can see this guy got more color today than you would get if you went to a spray tan booth.
I had a job to do.
Well,
I had to be outside.
have you ever
today.
heard of sunblock or
No,
a hat?
I do need to. Well, no, I don't want. I didn't get a hair day today. I don't want to ruin my hair.
Oh, I see. Okay. By the way, people have been asking about your shoes. I posted a picture this morning of these white shoes. They want to know how these shoes that you pack in a suitcase full of shoes, how they held up today.
Yeah, they held up good.
Well, they seem to be dirty.
A little bit dirty. You go home and clean them up. They'll be all right.
They seem to have black all over them.
Yeah, that cleans off easy. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you should wear like more hardy shoes for a racetrack instead of white loafers.
No, because then I would dress like you, and I don't want to dress like you.
Well, at Daytona will be after everybody votes us in the 90% club.
I have what I like to refer to as style. I'm known for that, and it works for me. I get a lot of compliments, and it's opened a lot of doors. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I wore a flamingo shirt today, and I think that,
Dad Miami.
Okay. I think it's better than your.
No.
I think my drip's better than your drip today.
No, not a chance.
And I got this at Target as well. This flamingo
I had a
shirt.
crew chief walk up to me today and ask me where I got my pants.
Well, good for you. You'll be wearing Target pants pretty soon enough, everybody. Well, anything else before? I mean, I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to see you until Martinsville. Now we get this bonus week here, and we'll be back together at Martinsville next weekend and Phoenix. So, any final thoughts, I guess, for
Love Homestead. You know what I love about this? One race. It makes it feel special. And I think that we've lost that in this conversation is you go to Phoenix twice a year, you go to a lot of these other tracks. And when you come here, though, it's like the one time of the year. And even if it's just an okay race, it still feels special because it's the one time of the year to come here. And I think scarcity is a good thing.
No, I mean, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I definitely love this place. So, yeah, let's hope it doesn't turn into houses 10 years, and let's hope that the championship's back here, and let's hope that it just has a long, successful history, because I would hate to, man, you thought I was sad about Fontana.
Oh man.
I would be so heartbroken if this place if they were like, yeah, you know what? Too valuable. It's so, oh my gosh.
I mean, we had this conversation today, and you're right, though. I mean, there's a lot of tracks closing. Like, we're not talking just short track. We're talking like bigger NASCAR tracks, and they ain't building more, man. And there's no plans to build more. I mean, Fontana maybe is the exception, but that's already built. Like, they're not. You start closing these places, you're starting to run out of options. And so, yeah, it's worrisome for sure.
Yeah, no, I know. All right, everybody. Well, I guess we'll wrap up there. Hopefully we'll have another. I mean, I'm skeptical about the short track package, but we were skeptical last year, and then we got a Hail Melon out of it.
I just think at the end of the day, the what the stakes are overrides that, and it's going to override good decision making.
Well, and also it's going to put a whole mask on the race.
Yeah. Even
Even if the race isn't good for the lead, you're going to have so many point scenarios going on and all this stuff. And can Denny get back up there? Can Martin do something? Is Reddick going to pop up?
Guys get desperate.
Blaney. Too. Oh no, he's down.
And somebody's going to have an issue on pit road, or somebody's going to back, and then they're going to get desperate. And then they're probably going to have to move. The only way you're going to pass somebody is to basically slam into them going into the corner. You can't just nudge them. Like, you have to slam into them, and all hell's going to break loose, and Team Chaos is going to be happy.
All right. Everybody, thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody. Now, you YouTube friends, I see some of you have joined late here, and the first part we were talking about, we already did the poll because we interviewed Christopher Bell before we got on here. We interviewed him out on pit road after he was done with his other obligations for the media stuff. So Jordan guessed 90, Bell guessed 82, and I guessed 90.1 to box Jordan in. And again, I don't think I'm gonna be able to, I can't put we don't have any video of the Bell interview or anything, so I can't put that as part of this. And especially since we recorded it live. So the Bell part, if you want to listen to it, it's about 5-minute interview or so. And that will be at the very beginning of the Teardown audio version. So if you want to hear that, you can do that. But man, Nathan, my guy here in the comments says, Gluck, why are you looking at my uncle at a summer picnic?
It's my man. Love Nathan.
Man.
I love Nathan. He's right.
Did you see double DQ?
Yeah, Hamilton and Leclerc.
Which moves Logan Sargent up into the points.
Oh, wow. Good for him. That's great. And is that his first points?
Yeah, first points.
In the U.S. Grand Prix. It's good.
Casey Fry pointed that out. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, we saw that in the comments is popping up here. I guess our F1 writers we have 3 F1 staff at the race today. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're all quite busy right now with that DQ, I would imagine. So
is there like a Bob Pockers version on the F1 beat? Like who's just loving this right now and going through the minutia of the rule book?
I don't know. There's a lot in the FIA rule book too. You can never get all that straight, but you don't have to use your microphone anymore. We're off the thing. Yeah. That doesn't help these people.
All right.
We're just talking to our friends here before we go off the air. So some people wanted Xfinity and truck thoughts. I missed the entire truck race. I was doing an interview. So Aisha said you're a superior daddy. Wow. I have dad style and you're a daddy, she said. Jeez.
I mean, what can I say about that?
My guy, Chris, the sports betting expert. Chris, what happened? We both said Larson, except if he makes a mistake. And he did make a mistake, I guess, right? So, anyway.
Dale Jr. yesterday. That was fun to watch him. And he was beat.
Yeah, but he didn't really have the Bristol type run.
No, but he still
wasn't really in contention. I mean,
he was running 4th, 5th. It was fun. It was fun to see him, though. He was so jacked up after the race. Like, he was tired and exhausted, but he had so much fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was fun to see him.
All right. Well, I guess we'll hop off here. I don't know if I'll be able to convince Jordan to go to some sort of late dinner after I had it
right. I got work to do. I have to write. Like, I don't know about you, but I have writing to do. It takes me a while to write. All right. I'm sorry. Someone else has to write.
He's got to get to it.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
See you guys.